You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
I get asked all the time what to do. New counselors say, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to plan next? How do I run this group? How do I teach this lesson? And I know how you feel. I mean, this profession doesn't really come with an instruction manual, and we definitely didn't learn all of this in grad school. So over the years, I've developed curriculum plans and resources to support students, and those are the things that you'll see, in my TPT store and on my blog, and that's how I'd love serving you guys. But I decided I needed something more too. I wanted to really support you guys more and build an awesome community. So that's why I created Impact, my school counselor membership program. So each month, our members receive monthly curriculum plans, ready-to-download resources, and video implementation guides. So they have everything they need to best support students and to make their counseling lives just a little bit easier. In addition, I deliver quarterly live professional development trainings. We have a fun and active Facebook group where we all hang out and collaborate and do fun giveaways and challenges. An essential resource library full of resources that you may need all year long, like a grief group or divorce discussion cards. And the best part, our community live chats. So we do Facebook Live and Zoom calls every month where we all get together, kind of like a round table, troubleshoot tough cases, pick each other's brains. It's a lot of fun. So if this sounds like something you need or something you're interested in, send me a message on Instagram at Bright Futures Counseling or head over to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact. Okay, let's go to the show. Hey guys, I hope you're having an awesome day and an awesome springtime. Spring is finally here. If you are in most parts of the U.S., I hope it is finally getting warm for you guys and you can go outside and enjoy the sunshine. Fortunately, I'm here in Costa Rica. We've had not a drop of rain and a solid 80 degrees since Thanksgiving, but I love it. No complaining here. Anyways, I love springtime for a few reasons. It's like a fresh, rebirth, spring cleaning, kind of like a revamp. I feel like we get this a few times a year, like that back to school vibe, New Year's, and then again kind of in spring. Maybe you're like rejuvenated and, kind of coming out of your black hole of inside and getting into the outside. So anyways, I like the spring. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about my favorite spring resources. So these are some actual resources and then some ideas that you can implement this month. So I hope you find them helpful. Some of them tie into anxiety because we've been talking about anxiety all month. But we kind of wrapped that up last week with our individual sessions. I hope you loved that series on anxiety. I would always love to know your thoughts about the podcast. Please leave me a review over on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts because I would like to know what you think of the podcast. And hopefully it's 5 stars. And I would also love to hear your counselor stories. We've been having so much fun hearing these, so please continue to submit those using our Google form. Okay, well, let's dive in. I have 4 things that you can do during spring that are counseling related and just a lot of fun. So first up is get outside. So what you can do with your students is try something like a coping skills nature walk. So just walk around your campus, or you could have the kids do this at their houses and then bring in what they find and do like a show and tell of sorts. But it's more fun if you all do it together. Walk around campus and do a nature walk. So maybe find some leaves or some rocks, or if there's like a little stream or something. I don't know. It depends on where your school is. If you're in an urban setting, you might have to get a little creative, maybe like a community garden or something. But either way, you can find some things in nature and then talk about how these relate to coping skills. So how they kind of symbolize coping skills. So you can look at a tree and talk about how it symbolizes grounding, or like we talked about with anxiety, right? Or you can talk about a rock and how that's like a solid foundation, and maybe that represents like your support system of people. So you can get really symbolic with it, or you can get pretty literal with it. Like, let's touch this sand or dirt and feel, how that makes our hands feel and how we can kind of focus on this for a little bit to calm down. Practice your deep breathing outside. Deep breathing in nature is always better than deep breathing inside, recycled air. So just get outside, get some fresh air, and walk around campus. I mean, obviously you have to get a little creative depending on how naturey or woodsy your school is. But I feel like most campuses I've been on have like a little bit of a green space or natural element to them. Also, if you are fortunate enough to be near like a wooded area, you could go do some forest bathing. So this is funny. You know how when you hear about something and then it just keeps coming up? Well, I was listening to a podcast. It was actually one of the first podcasts that I listened to years ago. It's called Wild Ideas Worth Living, and the lady who runs it is from San Diego. So I actually met her, I think, at a book signing in San Diego. Warwick's in La Jolla, if you know the area. But Shelby Stanger's her name. She's cool. She's started kind of small, but now she's like sponsored by REI, and it's turned into this huge podcast. But she's outdoor enthusiast, surfer, really cool lady, and she interviews like adventure people, a lot of athletes, a lot of wilderness hiking, outdoor type people, on all kinds of different things. And I'm pretty outdoorsy, I would say, more now than I used to be, for sure. Definitely not super athletic, but her episodes are just really interesting because these people just have such cool life stories that they bring to the table and cool experiences. So sometimes it's fun to listen to a podcast outside of your niche. Obviously, I hope you will listen to one inside your niche, because this one is, as you are a school counselor, but it's good to get a mix of podcasts, right? So on her podcast, like I said, I've been listening to her for years on and off. But recently, she had an episode on forest bathing. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but I believe it started in Japan, and it's basically a movement to get people outside into nature, into the forest, and there are these like breathing exercises and mindfulness exercises that you can do in the forest to help ground you and to lessen anxiety and improve mental health, and I believe it's backed up by science. Google it, really interesting stuff. But it's becoming more trendy and kind of like more mainstream now. So I heard about it randomly on this episode, thought it was cool. Talked to a friend had heard about it. We chatted about it for a minute. He was from like Pacific Northwest area. But then I was in, I live in Costa Rica and I live at the beach. I live in the Guanacaste region. So it's like super hot and sunny here. And we have, palm trees and stuff, but it's not like mountainous or anything really. But there's another area of Costa Rica called Monteverde, and Monteverde is very like mountainy, and it's a little cooler and just a different climate, kind of like a different vibe if you're gonna go to the mountains for the weekend. So for my birthday back in January, we did a weekend glamping trip to Monteverde, and it was really cool. We took our little one, Marin, and it was really fun. And I wanted to do some hiking because they have the cloud forest there, and in the cloud forest is called that because it's like a certain level of elevation, and anyways, it's really beautiful up there. There's like moss and grass. It's just kind of that like mossy wet feel that the Pacific Northwest has. I did some hiking like in Seattle area, Washington area, I guess. We were outside Seattle, Olympic National Park. Anyways, it reminded me of that, but way hotter. I think in July when I went in Washington, there was snow on the ground, and there was definitely not snow in Costa Rica. But sorry, this is kind of a long story, but I thought you guys might be interested in this. While we were hiking in the cloud forest in the I think it was Santa Elena Nature Reserve, we were just walking, and there were these little signs on the trail, and they were forest bathing signs. They were like little laminated papers you could pull up and do the exercises, mindfulness exercises right there. I was like, way to go, Costa Rica, way to be trendy. So I was excited about it. Tried to do a few, given that we had our little toddler with us who was trying to climb all the trees and everything. We didn't get too much of a mindfulness experience, but we were more in the moment trying to do, keep up with him and chase him around. Didn't really get to unwind and connect with nature, but I did read the prompts and they were awesome. So I was like, this is cool stuff. So I was thinking, you could do this at your school. You could like make little forest bathing cards. I'm sure you could find some templates online. And even if you did do it inside, like if you didn't have the option to go outside, just having the kids kind of like pace around the room to different stations and practice. And you could even do some fake trees or something, or go outside and do it. Either way, I thought it would be really cool and kind of like spring related as well. So forest bathing and getting outside, coping skills nature walk. That's all my first one. Okay, for my second tip, I want to talk about a countdown calendar. So you've probably seen these or heard me talk about them before, but I love to use these. It's something you can totally DIY. So I have one in my TPT store that you've probably seen. I have like counting out a winter break, counting out a spring break. But you could DIY it basically, think of like a holiday Christmas advent calendar, like where you lift the flaps to see different things. But instead you're counting down days to spring break. So that's something fun everyone can look forward to. So the kids come in, and then underneath each flap, so if you have, if it's day 5 or whatever, underneath day 5 flap, would indicate which activity they're going to do. And then it's like a spring-themed activity. And it's still going to be a counseling activity. So if you're using this with like an anger management group, it could still be an anger management activity. You would just kind of have a spring twist on it. So you can even get your current stuff that you have and just make it fresh and engaging with a seasonal theme. So you could just add some new, clip art or new pictures, or, spruce it up a little bit. And then by having kids figure out what they're going to do through the countdown to spring break calendar, it's just a cool interactive way for them to feel involved in what they're working on. Instead of you just saying like, okay guys, today we're going to do this. Instead, you could make like a little calendar where they can lift flaps and then pick different activities that way. Okay, and I'll link to the one that I have in the show notes if you want to check it out to get an idea of what I'm talking about. For the third thing, I have a positive affirmation scavenger hunt. So this one's fun at springtime. This one is kind of Easter themed. Obviously non-religious because you're likely in a public school, but you could do like Easter eggs if your school was cool with that. So the little plastic Easter eggs that you open up and you put candy in. I like to do positive affirmations in them. So you would put positive affirmations like I am smart, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am loved. You can have the students write them, or you could already have them hidden. And then, so either way, I think having the kids write them would be nice. So they write them, and then you tell them to close their eyes or do something else, and or maybe one session they write them, and then the next session you hide them. Oh, that's a good idea. Sorry, I'm thinking about this as I'm talking about it. I like that idea. One session, you have the kids write them. You could do this in a group. And then the next session, they think that was it. That was the activity. The next session, you hide the Easter eggs all over the room, your office, or maybe even outside if you want to, and have the kids hunt for them. And then they find the different positive affirmations, and then they get to read them, read the ones that they got. You can make it a little contest, even throw in a prize if you're into that. And again, that's an anxiety coping skill. If you remember back in the very first episode of this month, I was reading from the Ask a website on some of their anxiety coping skills, and they mentioned positive affirmations. So positive affirmations aren't cheesy. They're really powerful. So totally recommend doing those with kiddos. And I love a scavenger hunt. I like the Easter eggs. I think it's fun. If you wanted to leave Easter out of it, you could just do a normal scavenger hunt as well outside. But that's kind of a way to make it spring themed. This is something I have a template for as well that I'll link to in the show notes if you want to see some visuals to get an idea of what I'm talking about. And lastly, spring cleaning. So I was thinking this is something fun you could do with like an executive functioning group. So you could help them like get organized. So, their backpack is probably crazy. So I have everyone bring their backpacks to group and go through them, help them get organized. Their desk, you could do like a little audit of their desk and get it organized. So I was just thinking of ways that you could incorporate spring cleaning into your like an executive functioning group or a study skills group. You could also do spring cleaning if you want to make it more like metaphorical, spring cleaning out your mind. So for a growth mindset group, or like if you're doing any CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or challenging negative thoughts, you could kind of clean out the cobwebs of those negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts. Okay guys, so those are my 4 ideas for my spring resource roundup. So doing like a coping skills nature walk or forest bathing, countdown to spring break, Easter egg hunt, positive affirmations, and a spring cleaning activity. I hope you found these really helpful and that you are feeling inspired and going to try something today with your students. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.